I know that StarChefs has been hoping to get her on stage for many years now, and she's complied and will grace us this morning or this afternoon with her presence. So I'm really happy to introduce her. She's extremely talented. She's very humble for her level of talent. She's a very classy chef, awesome talent, author of cookbooks. She's an LA culinary mover and shaker with a knack for putting the perfect restaurant in the perfect place at the perfect time. She opened up her first restaurant, an upscale casual Mediterranean spot, in 1998, won stars and accolades. In 1999, she won an award from Food and Wine magazine for Best New Chef. And she opened her second restaurant with small plates and Wine by the Glass restaurant in 2002. More stellar reviews. Then she wins the James Beard Award. 2 more restaurants came in 2005, 2007. And then her most recent venture on an all-day upscale casual restaurant with a gourmet take on a takeout shop within, opened with great success in the mid-2009, in the midst of the recession, no less. I personally gave her an award last year at Cooking for Solutions at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I think they're running out of awards to give this lady. So let's get a little peek into the mind and masterful chef and restaurateur, Suzanne Goin, and find out what makes her tick, what inspires her food, what makes her a culinary star. Also on stage with her today will be, assisting her will be Elizabeth Faulkner. So let's please give a welcome to Suzanne Goin.
The first thing I'm going to do with the pork is I'm going to brine it, and then I'm going to confit it. And you know, sometimes in the kitchen at the restaurant they sort of joke like that I find the most complicated way to do the most simple thing. And I think at the end, if something seems simple, but it should have a lot of depth and sort of sensualness and lots of different flavor notes into it. So if I can get that allspice and juniper and that fennel seed in there with some sweet and salty, that's a good thing. So I have a little, I think I just used my pot. I'm going to heat my salt and sugar with a little water. Where's our water, Jules? Here's our water. Oh no, we lost our water.
Yeah, lost our water. Be right back.
We're going to use ice, because ice is actually frozen water. That was a joke. We're just going to heat that up so it dissolves, and then we're going to add it into some ice water with some sliced fennel, some sliced onion, and a little, like I said, juniper, allspice, fennel seeds that we're just going to crush in the old-fashioned mortar and pestle, which is another one of my favorite old-school things. I feel like I'm kind of like the low-tech.
Yeah.
I'm like the cast iron pan, knife, cutting board, and mortar and pestle person. Okay, so
You know,
we crush
it's pretty
those.
amazing with all the gadgets and stuff out there and amazing new technology and cookware, but the mortar and pestle is still also one of my favorite.
Yeah, I feel like there's no other way when you're really.
It's visceral. It makes you feel like you're connecting with your food.
Yes, definitely. It's funny, we were talking the other night about the farm to table versus molecular, which I agree with what Dan said, that it doesn't have to be the versus is a bad thing. I think it's nice that when the two things can come together, and for us, in terms of farm to table, the farm is where we get our food, and then we spin it however we spin it. So the idea that I'm a farm to table chef and that's the end of your story is a little strange to me. It's like I'm a farm to table chef who loves traditional flavors, who loves experimenting with different ethnicities, and as much as I'm not fusion, I feel like when I travel or taste new things, or I cook with, we have a Mexican runner in the restaurant who'll tell me what his grandmother used to make, and that inspires me, or we'll go to the market, and one of our farmers is Persian, and he has fresh garbanzo beans and lamb's quarters and all kinds of unusual ingredients, and to be able to talk to him and come back and be inspired by that is a really fun interaction, and I think that interaction is such a great thing. And the interesting thing with the 3 restaurants is I feel like we take that same base. We work with the farmers directly and get all that great, California or Los Angeles local produce, but we spin it different ways depending on the restaurant. So Lucques is a little more sort of French Mediterranean. And when Lucques had been open about 4 years when we decided to open A.O.C. And the idea was that it came from, we had a really great bar scene. Do you want to keep going, Jules?
Yeah.
Let me find some water.
I got some.
I don't want to run over after all this. I can't run over. So we're just going to put water in here, and our salt and sugar mixture, some bay leaves. And it's so funny, I filled up a pot of water. Anyway, then, and we had a really great bar scene at Lucques. We kind of hadn't anticipated. We were lucky. We were busier than we thought, and people, you had to make a reservation weeks in advance, and so we got this group of locals who would come in and sit at the bar because they couldn't sit at a table. And it actually turned into like kind of the coolest part of the restaurant was the people coming in. We have a 12-seat bar. Everyone kind of knew each other, and treated the restaurant actually the way that I wanted it to be treated, which I didn't see it as a fine dining restaurant. I saw it as the food that I love to cook in an environment that I would want to be in, and so, which is relaxed. I mean, LA is a relaxed place. I'm a relaxed person, and so people to be able to come in, I would hate when people would say to me like, "Oh, we tried to come into your restaurant, but we couldn't get a reservation." So people would come, sit at the bar, hang out, and we took that idea, and that was what spun to AOC. So we put a huge bar in, 2 huge bars, 50 wines by the glass, and the idea was, to make it more of an urban kind of hangout, and also about tasting. We have 50 wines by the glass. I love cheese, so we really wanted to make cheese a part of it. So we made it the first, we always had cheese at Lucques, but we'd sell like 4 or 5 orders a night. Just gonna submerge this in here. So I thought, well, I'm gonna make cheese the first page of the menu. I'm gonna have a cheese bar, and I'm gonna encourage people to actually eat cheese. It's very non-European, but eat cheese when you first come in, when you're hungry, when you can taste all those amazing flavors. So that was sort of where that idea came from. And we do small plates there, but not, the idea is not it to be tapas. The idea is that there's lots of it's family style, but everything's small, so if you come in as a party of 3, you can try all different flavors.
And how many dishes do you have on the small plates menu? Because it seems like you have a few pages.
We have a lot. Yeah, it's 3-page menu. So we have, it's divided into sections: salads, fish, meats, vegetables, wood-burning oven. And we have probably 30 dishes.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I mean, it was a crazy system to figure out because it was not the usual appetizer, main course, dessert. The food kind of comes out sort of rolling, which was a challenge when we were opening to figure out, okay, how do we do that? And actually the easy part, we were nervous about explaining it to diners. I think I just unplugged something with my foot. Wouldn't be the first time.
All right,
Sorry,
tell us what you got going on here.
Yes, I'm going to do this chorizo and cornbread stuffing. So we took a loaf of our bread and just cut it into, or tore it into croutons and toasted them. And I'm doing half cornbread and half of our regular bread. And then I have some chorizo that we brought with us from this great little Mexican butcher in LA. Just going to heat this pan a little bit hotter. Is that one hotter? And I'm going to render the chorizo. Add some onion, garlic, and kind of make a little, thank you.
Sorry.
So meanwhile, Julie's cooking our cavolo. So this is one of those greens it's just a green that I really love. It was actually, one of our customers brought it back from Italy, snuck in the seeds, and one of the farmers started growing it, and it kind of turned into this weird cult underground kale, LA kale phenomenon.
She's never had a menu without
Yeah, we've never had a menu without cavolo on it somewhere.
Since she had it.
So we're doing 2 things at once. Julie's, she blanched the cavolo nero, and she's going to do some onion and garlic in there, and then I'm going to reach over her. I have my nice hot pan. Just start with a little bit of chili, which is another sort of thing I love to do. I feel like it's all about getting those different layers of flavors in to kind of, again, not taste spicy, or you don't really want to taste the rosemary, but there'll be sort of like a depth and a richness in there that you won't quite know where it's coming from, but that hopefully it's adding more layers to your food. So, sorry, Jules. So I'm just going to take this chorizo, because pork is good, right?
Yeah.
What goes better with pork?
More pork.
Than pork. It's true. And then you only have to write on your menu pork 1 time. You know, like if you have it with a fish, you have to tell the people about the pork, and pretty soon, like 10 dishes have pork on them.
On the side.
Yeah, pork on the side.
So how do you describe the food at Tavern, your newest?
Tavern is, I always wanted to do a brasserie. And at first we were talking about making it very French, and then it seemed a little bit constricting. And I sort of thought, I want to take the idea of French brasserie and do the kind of food that I love to cook. And so it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. we want it to be sort of like Balthazar, the way Balthazar is in New York, the way you can go there for many different occasions. You can go just meet for a coffee and a pastry. You can go on a date. You can go with your friends. You can go with your family. So it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, very casual. We're always open. I think we have 10 menus. Julie laughs. Like one more menu. We have a bar menu. We have lunch, brunch, the kids menu, the kids brunch menu. And so I would say the food is more American. So it's kind of like a more American take on what we do. And it's interesting how I feel like Julie is more kind of I'm sort of a little more European in my flavor profiles, and she's more American. So Julie's our chef there, and it works out. It kind of sometimes you find the space that makes sense. I mean, it was an old hamburger hamlet, so it has sort of a American. Actually, once you took all the crap down, it was actually a beautiful space with big open windows, and it had a sort of it's a dramatic like brasserie type of feel to it, and but we do burgers, and we have lots of salads, and we do sandwiches and breads to go. We have our own bakery. We're making bread there. And then at dinner, it's a little more formal. Actually, this dish is a dish that I came up with for the opening menu at Tavern. So now that my chorizo is nice and rendered, I'm going to add my sautéed onions in. I guess one thing people always ask me about is sort of like the why. How do you organize your time, or how do you take care of three different things? And are we back in business?
Yeah, you're back in
awesome.
business.
There we go. I feel like I'm actually still kind of figuring it out. The place is sort of, I feel like there's always kind of a reason to be somewhere. Well, there's a lot of reasons to be everywhere, but whether it's somebody's on vacation or somebody's sick or there's a new menu. I mean, I feel like we change the menus twice a season, so it's this sort of like never-ending, rolling menu change, because I try to do the restaurants one at a time. So I try to spend daytimes at Tavern, because Julie's there at night, well, Julie's there all the time, but there's a lot going on there. It's new. We have the food to go, a lot of catering going on out of there. It's just lots of sort of madness. And then I usually go to the other two are more dinner focused, so I usually head over to the east side of town for dinner.
So basically, your kids wake you up at what time?
Oh my God, 6:30.
6:30.
That's the bad part.
And your husband David is a great chef too, and it just starts, and then it
starts and
and then
end,
it stops at what, 1 a.m.
Ends at like 1,
Yeah.
something. It's the hardest. I love what I do, and I love this business and work. I don't have a problem. I love working. So having the kids was definitely the moment where that all, I never mind missing parties or Saturday nights or whatever, but now is that moment where it's like, you're missing something somewhere. I feel like I'm always letting somebody down somewhere. So I'll get over it, but. All right, so then with our pork. Where is our pork?
Pork is right back.
Okay, great. So we would take our pork out now.
How long is that brine for?
24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't want to get it too crazy briny.
It's just like a background flavor. It's like
Yeah.
slightly sweet, but
And then we're going to put it in. Take it out and dry it. Here we go. Where's our brining pot, Jules?
Quite big enough.
she didn't bring it. Let me get it.
Ah! Okay, we're going to pretend. This is pork fat. We're not pretending that.
Hotel pan.
We're going to take this guy out, dry him off, and then we're going to go into a 250-degree oven. Ha ha ha.
You want
Not going to let him overflow.
this guy?
Yeah. And then actually, meanwhile, I'm just going to take this, so I have my chorizo and my onions. I'm just going to take a little veal stock just to deglaze there. And then I'm going to pour that over my, great, perfect.
Oh, there you go.
Julie got the right pot, yay.
Very good.
I'm going to pour that over this cornbread and bread mixture. Just going to stir that up. And I tend to be very liberal with the, with the seasoning and with the oil, and I like everything to be very sort of like dressed and glossy.
I've noticed in a lot of your food that you often use a lot of different chilies, like I think we like to do out in the West.
I do.
And you also use a lot of fennel seed.
A lot of what?
A lot of fennel.
Fennel, yeah. I think the fennel's from my kind of more Provençal, Provençal type like the love of that kind of Mediterranean thing, and then the chili is definitely the California or Southern California influence, which I think is great. We actually have a Korean sous chef, and Julie laughs at me because I get inspired by staff meal. So he made this Korean omelet, which is basically like a really, really, really thin layer of egg, and it wraps around this really chewy, sticky rice with seasoned with rice wine vinegar and scallions. So I'm just going to go into a 425 oven. And so he made this amazing staff meal, and so we kind of took it and I put dried scallops in with the rice. So it basically took the idea of that rice, the dried scallops, and then we would put that on the plate and drizzle it with raw egg, and then serve grilled scallops on top. So it was sort of like with like a sauce with scallions and rice vinegar and stuff like that. So it was kind of taking those flavors and retweaking them. Yeah, back one. But I think there's inspiration to be had everywhere around you. I mean, when going out to eat or going on trips or staff meal, the farmers. So I'm just going to pour this pork fat over here. And this is going to go into a 250-degree oven. And actually, we don't have a CVAP oven. I know you're a big CVAP fan, but I did it in a CVAP at I did an event at Blackberry Farm. And I think the CVAP is great for something like this. It's almost like the confitting it's already making it really tender, but then that's just taking it over the top. So let's go to a 250-degree oven. Will you open that for me?
Mm-hmm. Right here?
Yeah. So we're going to confit that for about, what is it, Jules, 6 hours? Julie?
5 to 6 hours.
5 or 6 hours. And it comes out looking like that. Get hot. The front one hotter? I'm just going to turn everything way up. And so the cavolo, Julie's just cooking it really gently. We started with some rosemary and thyme, a little onion and garlic, and then adding that in and letting it cook really slowly and wilting down. I think one of the keys is not to put too much in a pan. And it's also one of those things that's sort of easier to make at the restaurant when you try to make it at home if you make a really small batch. It kind of needs enough stuff in the pot to help it sort of steams and stews, but also gets a little bit of color in the end. So now I'm going to take this, our pork confit. We're just going to cut slices of this. So we've done it where we'll slice it and then we cook it on the grill. Because you get that really tender, confit, rich, fatty meat, and then you grill it and you get the smoke and the crisp and the kind of that contradiction or juxtaposition of the two textures. Which I feel like also with braising meat, so important to have that contrast so it's not just stewy or not just fatty. And also we can do it in a pan, which I'm going to do right now. And also take this sometimes and cut it into chunks and crisp the chunks up in the pan. We've done it with this Portuguese-style chorizo and clams. So we'll take the pork, chunk it up, saute it so it gets nice and crispy, and then add chorizo, the onions, the clams, a roasted tomato, vermouth, and then steam that all together. And
We use it at Tavern as a pulled pork barbecue sandwich. We make tacos out of it sometimes. We use it for a lot of stuff. The pork confit.
The pork confit, yeah.
Use the pork confit in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we use it in a lot of things. We'll do sandwiches with it.
Pulled
and we'll do.
pork sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just stalling to make this hot.
Tacos. So everything's like
All right. And then
Speaking of Korean inspirations,
Yes.
do you ever make kimchi?
I don't. I need to make kimchi. I made it a long time ago when I worked at Chez Panisse. My best friend who worked there was Korean, and he used to make it for us.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny. I have a Korean sous chef at Lucques, and I told him I want, David and I were in Hawaii, and we ate all this great kimchi, and I said, you got to tell me where to get the best kimchi, or show me how to make it. And he's like, no. My mom's best friend. I'm going to get it for you. And I was like, well, can you tell me how to make it? Can you show me where to? No. My mom's best friend. She's going to get it
He
for you.
doesn't even know.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But he was like, you can't buy it. You can't buy it. Okay. All right. So then our little sauce is going to be just a maple syrup with a little cayenne in it. So again, just going to kind of replicate, again, that sweet and salty flavor. And because I was feeling a little more, you could do sort of a sherry caramel, something we've done on pork before too. But this, I kind of wanted to go a little more all-American. And so the maple syrup seemed sort of like it was sort of like nature's caramel. A little more cayenne in there.
Like that. nature's
Actually needs a
caramel.
little salt, and a little pepper. Just gonna stir that up. And is our pan getting hot over there, Jules?
Barely.
Oh, good. Can I have it? We need a plating plate too. It's supposed to be out here. All right, so just gonna pour the little. Actually, I use pork fat. That's what I meant for this for. Just gonna sear it in a little pork fat.
Heck yeah.
Right. I'm having temperature issues. I'm sorry. I'm just waiting for this to get hot enough.
Can you guys answer this question? I've noticed just in a couple of restaurants that I've been in that it seems to be out here that people use more sea salt just in cooking rather than kosher salt, which I think I use a lot of kosher salt personally.
I use a lot of kosher salt.
And I mean, I use finishing salts, but I'm tasting a lot of food here, and I feel like it's not kosher salt, but it's actually more sea salt. Is that true, or?
I've always used kosher salt.
Yeah,
In every
kosher,
restaurant
right?
I've ever worked in, you know how to control it.
Right.
It's got all the minerals of salt. It's perfectly good.
Right.
But
This is good for this. Like when you have a nice, like a
Right.
big chunk of meat, like a steak. We do a steak for two, 32-ounce bone-in ribeye steak for two, and that we always use the sea salt for that. But yeah, in general cooking, I just couldn't find any kosher salt.
Okay.
I'm being flexible.
Yeah, I first
All
fell in
right.
love with Malden, and then everything started coming out. Now there's whole departments of salts
Right.
now. You know, every color of the rainbow.
I think we just keep getting disconnected.
Salt and sugar. I've noticed that
Is
too.
it?
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, sorry, we're moving over here. I'm sorry, there's nothing worse than putting something in a cold pan. And we got a plating plate.
But normally you put it on the grill.
Yeah, no, we do it in the grill, or we'll do it sautéed. Sautéed too.
I can go get you some Sosa smoke if you want.
Okay, good. It's funny, back to the kind of farm to table thing. I feel like one of the challenges is, we work with the same farmers every year. They grow, they'll still mix it up and grow new things, but I really feel like it's sort of my responsibility when they have, a mother load of lima beans or green garlic or whatever it is. It's sort of my job to work with that and to find something to do with it. And it actually is inspiring to me. It's more, I can't imagine just picking up the phone and calling for whatever I want. It's actually nice to have those restrictions, to be like, this is what you have to cook with, and now you need to figure out what to do with it. And the challenge is to do something different, so that we don't, every year you don't want to be doing the same thing with corn, or the same thing with lima beans, or whatever, green garlic, whatever it may be. And that's like kind of where I have to push myself to really, people are, why don't you make that thing from last year? It's like, because I'm making something different. And I think that's where just all of us, all chefs, I feel like we just keep having to keep pushing ourselves to make it different and to mix it up. And for me, sometimes that inspiration is in whether it's like the fresh garbanzos or the lamb's quarters. Okay, this year, instead of doing something more straightforward with succotash, I'm going to make like a Persian take on succotash and explore new spices and flavors. And
Suzanne, where do you draw your inspiration from? You read a lot of books, you watch television, go to markets, talk to your staff, eat out a lot. Where do you?
I wish I ate out a lot.
Well, where do you?
I love eating out a lot. It's funny, some of it I feel like is like you think and read about food for so long that it's almost like a weird little backlog. Like the first thing I always do is when I need to change the menus, I sit down and I write down, everything that everybody has, and then I sort of think of like pairings that would work together, like persimmons and salmon caviar. That was like one of my. I started being color coded for a little while. It was like everything was like about the color. And then it's sort of like building a dish from that. And I'll just go through and think of different pairings. And funny, for me, it actually comes much more from the vegetables or the fruits than from the protein. I usually end up coming up with the stuff underneath, or what the accompaniments to the protein I come up with first, and then I kind of work with what protein that would go with, instead of being like, I want to make something with quail. I'm more like, I want to, pomegranates are coming, and I'm thinking this and that, and it works that way for me. I don't know. But eating, I don't eat out enough. I wish I could eat out more, but I feel like whenever I do, whether it's in town or, I actually eat more out of town,
Right.
because you come and you're not working. So is really inspiring. Reading books is always inspiring. I'm just afraid this pan's not gonna be hot enough. Maybe I'll put it on the, there.
There you go.
There we go, okay.
Hey, a plancha.
Can't wait any longer.
Black and blue.
Yes. Let that sizzle there. And also inspiration from, I get a lot of inspiration from the people who I work with. It's a nice thing about having people that you work with for a long time, and everyone's kind of coming from, we're from a similar, we're sort of like siblings, like coming from a similar place, but spinning off in different directions. And I think when you have that, it's also a good way to kind of hold on to people too. I mean, I know when we had Lucques and we were thinking about opening another place, part of the reason we opened another place was I had two great sous chefs, we had two great front of the house people. It was like the rest, like Lucques could not contain all the people, all the energy that was in that space. And it sort of made sense then to kind of expand and give everybody gets a promotion and everybody gets kind of their own turf and everybody kind of grows and learns. And I mean, same thing when we opened Tavern, all the sous chefs were from, people who'd been working with us, and they get to kind of, everyone moves up with it, and I think it's the, let's see, the spatula. Can we do questions? Does anybody have questions?
Yes. Why don't we take this moment, if there's any questions, anybody wants to ask a question to Suzanne? Yes. Do we have a mic?
No.
Yes.
Do we have a mic?
Check
Thank
the
you.
stuffing.
Question?
Oh, it's in here.
Oh, yeah.
Want me to take it
Yeah,
in?
it looks good.
Okay.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Chef Paul from Primal Alchemy in Long Beach. I've had the pleasure of working with you before, but it was quite a while ago. Where do you source, or what kind of partnerships do you have with meat purveyors that are in that local area? Since I live around there, I'm kind of curious because it seems like it's difficult. We're in the city.
Yes.
There's not a lot of people raising pigs out in the city.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, I think LA is a strange place. People don't necessarily think of LA as a great produce place. You wouldn't think there are a lot of farms, but we're so close to so many areas that I feel like from the farm department, it's amazing. And I think where we're behind is in the meat department. We end up getting a lot of stuff from Northern California, but I think it's coming along. I think in San Ynez there's some people doing grass-fed beef. I've sort of been talking with them. They don't really have the capabilities to sort of fill what we need. So it's more a matter of like getting it in, maybe doing a special or playing around with it. We get suckling pigs from one of our farmers, Peter Shaner, and Jadori chickens, which are close. But I think you're right. A lot of was the squab people in Carpinteria, but I think that's where the area needs to really grow. I feel like we have the produce part so down, but we don't have like what's going on in upstate New York or what's going on in Northern California. We're not quite there yet. But I think it's coming. I feel like people are talking about it and more interested. Go a little bit more.
You still have farmers markets, so
Huh?
you still frequent farmers markets a lot?
Oh yeah, we go 3 times a week.
You've been called the vegetable whisperer, I believe. Is that correct? The vegetable,
I do love
vegetables speak
vegetables.
to you. That's where you get your inspiration from. I think it's
Yeah,
awesome.
kind of,
Absolutely.
I just feel like always, especially when you're making, coming up with a dish or making a plate, for me there's like a part, there always has to be some break, because I love rich, it's so funny, you think vegetables and then people think, oh, it's like light or spa or whatever, and I'm definitely, I think the furthest thing from that, but I do like that balance of like, for example, with this dish, the stuffing is pretty
Looks
rich
awesome.
and
Looks
ballsy and awesome and tasty, but you need a break from, you need something in between to break up the rich, and for me that's always, actually usually greens, like everything always has, whether it's like scattering a few leaves of dandelion or a few leaves of arugula, like something to kind of break up the, to break the dish and give your palate sort of a little textural and flavor break. There we go. All
This
right.
smells amazing. I don't know if you can smell it,
Good.
but the aroma that's coming over that plancha is just awesome.
Yeah, the plancha's good. We love the plancha. We have one at Tavern. We're always planchaing. So I'm just gonna take a little of this stuffing, plate it on here.
I want to know how many chilies you go through, because I've been in your kitchen at AOC when you make the harissa, which is like one of the best harissa condiments I've ever tried. And I've seen some of your cooks bring in
Oh,
just
yeah,
a
we got
massive amount
mother
of chili.
loads of case, yeah. At AOC, we when you sit down, we give you a little dish of harissa and black olives and then the bread and olive oil. And yeah, that's the constant, that's like the constant roar of the tub of, can never make enough harissa. Okay, then I'm just gonna take a little bit of this cavolo nero. And for me, the plating should be I'm sort of a very natural, it's funny because I'm a very natural plater. I mean, I want the food to look, George and Joanne at El Forno, who I worked for, used to say the food should look like it's born on the plate. And I agree, but it's funny because it's so seemingly straightforward, but I spend so much of my time like trying to get the cooks to, we lose that pork sauce? I think we did. Trying to get the cooks to get it right. This isn't really an example, but I think especially like the pantry station, which is so funny. I feel like people think the pantry station it's like the introductory, or it's the easy station, or and for me, it's actually probably my favorite station in the kitchen. And for our restaurants, the place where you have to go through there to understand how the ingredients and how we want things handled and how to make food look beautiful on the plate, because there's not so much to manipulate. So it's about we do a summer fruit salad right now that's all the different wedges and slices and sort of like that topography of the dish on the plate and the naturalness of the sauce. And it's so funny, some people get it and some people struggle so hard. It's actually kind of a trickier thing to teach than, okay, this goes at 10 o'clock, this goes at 6 o'clock. Now I'm just gonna drizzle this guy.
I like that term, the topography on a plate. That's good.
You know what I mean? Like the hill, we call it hills and valleys. It's like the plate there should be hills and valleys in the plate. That is my pork. That's my pork confit with the cavolo. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're
Susan.
welcome.
Simple, layered, delicious, and inspiration to everyone. We really appreciate it. Thank you very,
Thank
very
you,
much.
Rick.
All right.